Hi, my name is Jonathan Wyner, and I'm here to talk to you a little bit about some of the plugins that are in the portfolio of what UAD offers to you. Just to give this some context, when I started working on records, which was a few weeks ago, maybe a few decades ago, we were always running the signals through analog consoles, which included transformers. In some cases, the technology had tubes. We were always working to tape machines. And so there was an imprint on the signal, which gave the signal a certain characteristic sound. It's probably recognizable if you go back and listen to rock records from the 1960s or 1970s. You hear a little bit of the color, the character, the limiting, the compression, the personality of the signal. And we couldn't get away from it. You walk into a studio and you were going to work with what you were given. We could make some choices, but mostly we were working with gear that was inherently colorful. Then digital came along, and suddenly that was no longer a requirement. It was no longer a part of what was going to happen to the signal. We could record cleanly, and then we were left with something that was very high fidelity. There was a very high degree of accuracy. But it turns out that there are certain things that were part of the vintage signal path that were sounded good. It was something that we enjoyed. The characteristic sound of the compression or the limiting or the saturation that was part of the circuit introduced something that was very pleasing to the ear and gave the sound some personality or character. So UA is a company that I think has been largely responsible for curating and conserving that technology and bringing it into the digital domain to make it available to everyone. So now we have this sort of perfect marriage of the cleanliness and repeatability and certainty of digital, along with the character of some of these vintage, storied, historically important and traditional signal processors. UA does a great job managing some of the technical challenges in the digital domain around dealing with aliasing distortion, with the way they approach the roll-off on the high end to make sure that aliasing doesn't become especially problematic. And they have done a great job at mapping the behavior of the analog gear to the digital domain extremely well. So I'm going to go through a few probably familiar pieces of gear, and these plugins that are represented in some ways are like the grandparents of other plugins that you see nowadays. You might see modern manifestations of an opto compressor or a VCA compressor. A lot of the thinking around the design at least starts with the thinking that was part of the invention of the gear that's represented in these plugins. So here we go.